Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you today and thank you for tuning in. I want to welcome you today. I'm still going deep in my core to try to figure out how to best navigate the shift. There are some things that I'm becoming more and more aware. Was in the process of preparing. I got guided by spirit because I realized over the past, let's say 10 years or more, I've been preaching and teaching all of you, basically preaching to all the already converted. And I realized that I needed to, what the spirit guided me into, spreading the information about how to manage and navigate the shift in a better way, in a more effective way to more people. So I approached some other healers from different modalities that I know, 3 others, and I asked them if they would embark and join with me on this and create these series of summits, monthly summits, to help others, not just us, the core group, but others navigate the shift, have an understanding to navigate the shift, at least basic core information. So after a month of weekly meetings on Zoom, we are getting closer and closer. So by sometime in August, I'm not sure exactly when, but let's say 4 weeks from now, we will end up having, we haven't picked up the date yet, but we're getting closer and closer to finalizing it. And the summit will be called The Path of Return. Heartfelt guidance for safe passage to the new earth. And in the process of writing what that meant to me and to the group, I kind of went over and reviewed the idea of the transition into a higher dimension and the backdoor process. How that process of Bardo, which is a gap in Tibetan, a gap or a intermediary state that exists between 2 states of consciousness, like whether you pass from being awake to going to sleep, being dead to coming back to reincarnating, or being alive and dying, whichever the case may be, that in the process of doing, Marjorie's having a problem, I think. Yeah, hold on 1 second, I got a text. Oh, she is, I have to let her in. Okay. Sorry, Margie. So that process, the Bardo process, the idea of trying to find that intermediary state, that gap, is very specific because it is a time in which where whatever identity, belief, and the ways in which you used to hold yourself in the old paradigm and old belief system, you have to figure out a way to dismantle all of it so that you can move into the different awareness. The same thing happened when we go from being awake to going into deep meditation, where we connect to our higher spirit. So somehow there are lots of techniques. If you're going to deep meditation, breath control is one of them. Repeating mantra, praying, all these things will help you let go of the awareness that you have, where your frontal lobe, and you're calculating, you're measuring, and you're trying to survive, and you're trying to find safety. And somehow you have to let go of all of this, and you have to transit into an expanded awareness. an elevation of some kind. But that transition is not smooth. It's actually extremely turbulent. If you think about it for a second, what I'm saying is that whilst I am, let's say, I'm trying to transition from being awake, normal state of consciousness, to going into deep meditation, I have to somehow surrender all my fears. I have to let go of all my, who I think I am, what I think I am, my relationship to everything around me. I have to let go of all attachments. These are very tall order for the average person to do. Okay? This is me just being awake and going in deep connection with God and spirit. Similar things happen. And by the way, when you let go and surrender all of these things, you have to allow step number 2, some sort of emerging awareness and trust into some unknown state that is not your default to arise. And you have to somehow have faith and trust and surrender all of your care and all of your identity into this thing that's almost like some outline that's beginning to take shape in a fog. I'm trying to describe it, I'm slowing it down and I'm saying it with words to make you understand the kind of difficulty that we're facing. Because all about those states are characterized by the same process. So somehow I have to slow everything down. And all these things I've enumerated, whether it is who I am, my relationship to other people, who I think I am, all of these things, I have to let them go. All the fears, I have to let them go. All of the attachment, I have to let them go. And to the degree that I empty myself completely, it's to the degree that I will now allow whatever exists in the fog to become clearer and clearer to me. Yet it is it's counterintuitive. Because I exist in 3D and I'm calculating and I'm trying to survive and I'm trying to be safe all the time. These 5 things I enumerated are things that we grab onto and we refuse to let go under no circumstances, because otherwise we will feel unsafe. So it will be counterintuitive for me to let go of all of them so that I can go into that expansion. Because that expansion so far because I'm not in that higher awareness yet, it's unclear to me. It's foggy, it's undefined, and I have to find a way to transit through it. So that struggle where 2 things are overlapping each other, meaning the survival and feeling safe, and on the other hand, the opposite, which is you have to trust and let go, and you have to let that higher awareness now, you have to let that higher awareness now take over. You have to trust, and you have to, and they overlap each other, and the 2 of them could coexist in the same space for a little while. And every once in a while, if you really do a good work in surrendering, and to the degree that you surrender, the fog, whatever outline exists in the fog, takes shape. And it becomes something very tangible, and sometimes so extraordinary that there is no description in 3D to kind of like qualify it or give it an objectify it. And I want you to understand the emotional and mental gymnastic that you have to do to move from one state of awareness into the higher one. So sometimes you're more, sometimes the surrender happens, you go into that state and you enjoy it for a moment, let's say for a half hour or an hour, and you might return back now to the 3D state. And as you return, the afterglow of that awareness remains, but you will have difficulty trying to explain it to someone else who's still in 3D, because there is no point of reference in the 3D to describe the experience, right? Often people have asked me, can you prove the existence of God? Like I remember a student asking me this once. I'm like, I cannot prove it to you, but I can actually make you feel what God is. I can guide you to an experience where you will meet God. I can help you with surrendering all of these things and allow for whatever exists on the other side to show up for you, right? So I'm saying this because I want you to understand, because if this happens just for me sitting down, trying to shut down 3D for me and go into an expansion that will allow me to have a conversation with God, imagine what's going on with the planet, for the planet right now, where we are not just, it's not just a normal meditation where you're trying to keep in your day so that you can have a good day, but now we are going to try to exist completely and fully in 2 dimensions above where we are. We go for 3D to 4D to 5D, at least 2 dimensions above, and we're going to fully occupy it on a permanent basis. There is a tremendous, and this is for a lot of people on the planet simultaneously, there's a tremendous amount of work that has to be done in that transit, okay? There's a tremendous amount of personal realignment of your thinking. There's a lot of emotional intelligence work that has to be done. And there's a lot of heartfelt coherence that must occur for you to move into that space. And what characterizes all about those states is the confusion. Because the knowledge, the identity, you know, whether you believe you're Bambi, you're Ursula, or you know, or the Little Mermaid, however you identify yourself as in 3D is not who you are. Whatever your fear relates to your survival, whatever your fear of the day is, whether it is your financial security, whether it is your fear of survival because of atmospheric things. People in Europe right now experiencing heat that are 110, 116 degrees. Same in Japan, by the way. I had a client in Japan, I was talking to her, same kind of crazy temperature. And the electrical grid is stressed. And given the war, there is not enough natural gas or electricity for them to meet the demands. So whether it is that, that's your worry of the day, your fear of the day. Whether it is a new variant that may show up, or whatever other disease may appear on the horizon, whether it is, however it shows up for you, those fears, those things, you have to let go and surrender of all of them. But these things, because we've been domesticated into thinking very specifically to survive. We've been acclimated and domesticated, not just for this lifetime, but you have to think of us as the dominant species on the planet that's been doing this for 300,000 years or more. So there is an entire genetic predisposition to go on that hamster wheel and do this naturally. What the transit is asking you to do is to slow all of these down and be aware, be conscious of the process of making a choice and saying, I am not Bambi, I'm not Ursula, I'm not the Little Mermaid, I am not my fear, I'm not my attachments. And I take all of that vulnerability, all of these things that are scaring me. I'm not my losses, I'm not my grief. I'm taking all of this and I'm gonna give it into that blessed field. And I'm gonna trust who I really am is something far greater that's beyond all of these things. What I'm describing is what in a lot of spiritual teaching have been described as an ego death. You have to let go of all of it. And you have to consciously select something else. And it's literally counterintuitive, because every instinct that we have, that we've been ancestrally been domesticated into belief, will tell you the opposite. You have to figure out a way to pay all of these bills. You have to do this. You have all of these things. It's not that I'm telling you not to pay your bill. Of course, you need to do this. But what I'm saying is that there is a point where the worry is so intense and it's so exaggerated, particularly when you're going through the Bardo and we're collectively experiencing this, the climate change event, all these things are so beyond the scope of anything that you and I can really control. And when we're experiencing it in that kind of intensity, it actually is a teacher. And instead of trying to overcome it and control it, the virtue of control is actually overcome in the surrender of the control. Listen carefully to what I'm saying. The virtue of controlling your environment is overcome by surrendering the control into that emerging space, taking all the feeling of vulnerability, of trying to survive and not knowing where tomorrow is going to take you, whether it's financial, whether it's worry about your job, whether it's a loss, however it shows up for you, taking all of this and giving it to a higher power and trust that you're going to be okay. And the moment you begin to be able to do this, and I'm not saying you're going to do it 100% of the time, always, and it's going to be, you're going to be in this place, and then all of a sudden you might shift there for a moment and you go back there. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth. That's why the term in the workshop that I've been talking to you about this for now, almost 4 or 5 years now, you have to find safe passage. And the safe passage, it's from your own inner battle and struggle between these two things. The old paradigm and belief systems and fears and identities, and whatever else is emerging, but undefined, unclear, and therefore for you, scary. And you have to allow yourself to go into what is that unknown and appear to be a scary space. And to the degree, and this is the odd thing, is that to the degree that you can surrender the 3D identity, the old paradigm, to the degree that you can let go of all of it, and you can really and there are days where I can do this very easily. I surrender it completely. All of a sudden, whatever exists on the other side becomes extremely big and extremely easy. And it defines itself in such a deep and profound way that for a moment there, I exist in a flow and in a trust. And it could be for a day or two, and sometimes up to 2 weeks, where everything around me, in me, and on top of me and underneath me is about flow. And there's no struggle, no resistance. Everything flows. But when my consciousness shifts back into the old paradigm, then the fear sets in, the worries and all that. I found that the trigger for me that takes me back from that higher elevated consciousness into the old paradigm, the real trigger is related to people I care for. But if I was worried only about myself, and I was financially secure enough or privileged enough where I wouldn't have to worry about anything else, I think I could get into that space much easier. My issue is that I keep worrying about people that are in my life, that or the other. Is everybody okay? And my attachment and connection to them. That's the part that I am still struggling to master. And I'm not saying that I'm interfering with their life. I'm letting people make their decision, etc. But because of my position, people are always asking me to pray for them for this and do this. Can you overlight me for this and that and the other? And as I do this, I tend to, in some ways, overreach. I don't know if it's the right word or the right adjective here, but I tend to be more concerned than I need to be concerned about them. And because of this, I worry about their survival and their ability to make it through this passage. And because I worry about them, it takes me back into that 3D realm. Now, that's my customized, because of where I am as a spiritual teacher, that's my customized test for my safe passage into the new earth. You may not have the same customized concerns or worries, but I'm worried about them, or they're going to be okay financially, or they're going to be okay, their attachment, their burden, or their grieving, or their healing, or they and as I do this, I go back into that concern, and I'm no longer into the space where where I am so present and so in the now that I'm not worried about the past, nor am I worried about the future. I am simply being a witness to myself. This is what that other realm, higher realm, is about. It's to be a witness to yourself. As I said, I can exist in it at moment where I know everything is okay. I could feel the energy, everything unravels. It's like all the kinks, or it's like a well-oiled machine. Everything just works, operates smoothly. But the moment I go back into concern about this and that or the other, this person, all of a sudden the wheel gets clogged, the spokes and everything else seems not to work correctly. And I'm trying to force it, and I'm trying to, and the next thing you know, I'm back into the control. It's the control that's the problem. And to the degree that I can let go of the control and I can go into that space, it's not that I'm not going to act. I'm going to act, and I'm going to ground God's purpose for me, and I'm going to activate it. Okay? I'm going to, I'm going to do what I need to do. You understand? But sometimes, because I get so concerned about the people that I'm emotionally connected to, that I lose my center. I lose my center. And so it's a question of me finding that balance. Because to the degree that I can do this, because all of a sudden, because I'm worried about them, that or the other, all of a sudden, it then precipitates me into survival. And as long as I am in the survival and I'm concerned and I'm worried, then I'm thinking, maybe I should act this, maybe I should do this, I should do this for them, maybe I should. And as I do this and I do all the things that I'm supposed to do, because I'm connected to a lot of people, as I do this, then I am not the witness anymore. I'm not witnessing myself. I'm no longer into the now, where I am trusting that the universe and the benevolence that exists everywhere is imbuing me with everything that I need. But however the world presents itself right now, whatever fear, whether the fear is climate change, whether the fear is pandemic, whether the fear is whatever it is that it presents itself to be for me, or financial worry, however it shows up for me. If I go into that flow of being a witness and allow everything to pour through from spirit, where I trust implicitly and completely that I am safe and I'm supported, and that I am deeply and profoundly blessed, favored, and loved. If I can trust this, give me a second. If I can trust this and allow this to occur, then suddenly I am in a completely different space. Any questions, any comments?
Okay, Pierre, as you're talking, I was, picturing like a orchestra and a conductor, and you come into a room when everybody is warming up and everybody is, tuning their instrument, and some way everybody just hits that perfect note, and then the conductor, says, "Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top." And so the conductor doesn't play the instruments, but you have to allow each player to play their own instrument and to know it as well as they can know it, and each one of them tuning up and coming to that point where you're not playing for them. You're just bringing out of each person by the timing as to when to come into the piece, when, to go out of the piece, when to harmonize with the piece. And so the conductor has to know all of the arrangement and what every one of the pieces is supposed to be, but you still have to allow for each one to do their very best in, doing the part that they're doing, and then we'll all, come into, harmony and focus, and you'll know when everybody hits that pitch, and you're sort of like waiting for everyone to actually hit that perfect point where everybody is harmonizing and synchronizing in and out of the tune as it's being played. So that's what I see. So you have to trust each one.
Yep.
And we too have to trust you too. So it's no one is doing it by themselves. Everyone is doing their part to the very best of their ability, and you're trusting that it's all going to come together.
Mm-hmm. I like the conductor analogy, because to a degree, this is what it is to be a spiritual teacher, to be a leader. You are the conductor, and you have to figure out the tempo, and the music, and when it's the wind instrument, when it's the string, when it's the percussion, and you have to be able to guide them at the right moment and the right time. But it's a question of also knowing that they are virtuosos, and they will know on their own what they're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Anybody else? Any other comments or questions? Now that,
Well,
yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh, no. I mean, I'm sorry, being so late. I was trying to get off mute. But what came to my mind, well, a lot of things, but what I'm going to share here is that I saw the center is my house. I mean, each of us house. It's where we live, and that house, based upon part of, it's not just the house, but where's the true house? And the house might need some nails, or a lot of nails taken out of it, and it needs to collapse, in many instances, to deal with, the true house.
Mm-hmm.
And letting go of the old house by taking the nails out, when it's not the true house, or when it's the false house, or when it's based upon those principles of survival, in the physical, it's I mean, it's like you say, it's kind of a big realization, and at the same time, it's a realization where it's necessary to just go into your true being from the inner, not the outer,
Mm-hmm.
and letting go of the house
Yeah.
that we think we live in, or we see ourselves as living in. And we've seen ourselves as building for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get outside of this house in order for us to, dwell and create that space in the true house.
Mm-hmm.
And while that's a collective activity, it's a very personal activity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I just saw this house, the nails coming out and the planks falling, and and here you are, in this state of looking at it, but still, not panicking about it.
Yep.
Because it's really not the true house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's funny, as the true theme that's the most common one that I'm having in my dreams right now. I'm on a highway, either driving a car or trying to navigate an exit or finding the right place to go. I'm lost, confused. I'm not sure how to navigate myself through. Or the other theme is that specifically in all my dreams, I have not just one house. There are multiple places where I go in my dream, and they're homes. There's one that's in the country. There's one that's an apartment building with multiple stories, like 4 stories there. And I know every time I go there to these places, it's my home. But that home is me. It's a different version of me. Because you don't have just one identity, you have multiple. Okay? And so what happens is that of late, when I get to these properties in my dream, they're all being renovated. They are all under renovation. And in fact, the one that's 4-story, there was a beautiful apartment that existed in the top floor, but to access it, was extremely complicated. You have to go to a hallway where it looks so decrepit and so destroyed, and you have to go inside an apartment that's incomplete, and somehow you access it. But it's the most beautiful part of it. And I remember trying to get to this, to this place, to that location, and of the last dream I had, I went in there, and all of a sudden, it is filled with skylight. It has been renovated. There's a beautiful desk. And then when I look at the roof, there are all these gardens, just beautiful, lush gardens that are on the rooftop. And for the first time, because every time the dream begins, I'm always inside the apartment building. And for the first time, as I look at the rooftop, I was able to actually see the front of the building. And again, it's not just one identity for me in my dream, because I know how my dream works. The symbology of the journey, and another dream as well related to this. I'm always driving, I'm navigating, I'm looking at GPS maps, I'm trying to figure out what the exit is, where I'm supposed to go, blah, blah, blah. And I remember one time I actually left the car. The last dream I had, I left the car, and I'm on foot in the highway, and there's an off ramp that goes somewhere. Okay, and I'm literally I'm by myself, and if all the cars are passing me by, I'm 3-lane highway, and there's an off ramp, and I'm walking. And when I walk, suddenly I go in the off ramp. I exit, and I find suddenly the dream change. I am now trying to climb up, and I'm climbing up. It's like those climbers that go on a sheer bare cliff, and they're doing things with their fingers and their leg and their sweat. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get on top of whatever that ridge is. When I finally make it through, I picked up and I finally get it through, and I get basically clear my chest, my upper chest, my head and my upper chest, and I'm looking out. I see a small cottage, very simple, white, 1-story. There's a porch in front of it. Far in the distance, like a good, maybe 200 to 300 feet away from where I'm climbing up. And I see 2 chickens that are pecking in front of the porch. And I woke up from the dream. Now, I have to tell you, in a dream, when you find yourself that you're going horizontally, okay? Let's say you're driving, you're on a bus or on a train, you're going to parallel world. For example, 3D may have multiple parallel realities, different version of the same thing. But when you are climbing, either to an elevator or stairway, like I told you in that one dream in the apartment, I'm going up to the rooftop, it means that you're elevating in dimension. So in this instance, I was climbing up. I'm literally, it's like I was climbing Mount Everest. And it was very slippery and muddy. I couldn't find proper grip. And somehow I made it through. And when I peeked over, I saw the simple little cottage that I was trying to access. And it appeared that this is the destination I was seeking. So I wanted to, I think you're on the right track, Esther, this idea of the house. And however that vision came to you, because in my dream, that's the way it shows up for me. And it's not just one house. I think there are like 3 or 4 of them for me that are different from each other. Yet every time I go there, because I go there so often, every time I go there, I become lucid. Oh, I'm like, oh, it's that house. It's the house in the country. And I know there's a certain section, there are all these wild fruits that are growing there. I can go get some berries here. I know it very well. And I know I have neighbors that are adjacent to me.
Wow.
So I think you're on the right track. So the dream will actually provide you with assurances and confirmation as to what you're doing emotionally and psychologically to help support that transit from the 3D into whatever the higher dimension is. Now, of course, I'm doing a dream workshop right now. I'm finishing one version, one type in the next 2 weeks. But after that, I'm going to repeat the class again, because many people who are taking the class now are asking me to repeat it. Because one go around was not enough to get all the information.
Wow.
Anybody else, any other questions or comments? Now, I want to talk about now related topic, but a slightly, I try to alert you to something else related to the transit. I had channeled since 2015, 2014 even, that the frequency of the bridge that will lead us into the new earth, which would be the transit, is truth, authenticity, and transparency. These are higher virtues. I'm going to talk about those three in a second, but before I proceed, I want you to understand truth, authenticity, and transparency are like a purger or a catalyst, a purifying frequency. They are not, listen carefully to what I'm saying, they are not the actual frequency of the new earth. The frequency of the new earth is it's a mosaic of peace, love, justice, what else? Hope. There's one more thing I don't remember now, but it's a mosaic of like 6 different feelings or higher emotion, higher virtues. But truth, authenticity, and transparency are the actual purifying vibration and frequency. And I want to go into this and try to explain it succinctly. Remember, we talked about the fact that we have a certain way that we are connected to survival, and we hold that survival. You know, we tend to be distracted and concerned and trying to control and hold everything in place. Right now, because of the shift or the near shift that we're into, where the whole planet will be given an opportunity to choose which reality we're going to exist in for the next 31 million years, there is a galactic dispensation, a higher galactic core dispensation, which is to bathe the planet right now with specific vibration that will purify and accelerate our ability to release the 3D. And that acceleration, that purifying energy, are truth, authenticity, and transparency. And let me explain how that works. Right now around the planet, you're seeing a lot of disclosure, a lot of things. I remember when I channeled this in 2014, the Galactic Master, I think it was the Galactic Regent Council, said, all that is hidden will be revealed. So right now, all of the secrets that people, you know, governments, stars, public figures, even in you, all the things that you're hiding from yourself, because we are masters of self-deceit. We hide to ourselves. We're constantly lying to ourselves. We're camouflaging all the time. So whatever it is that you're camouflaging from yourself will show up. because there is an external light that's coming from the galactic core that's forcing you to go to that filter, to that lens, to clarify. It's like a sieve that we're being taken through. And because of this, many of us are going to experience maybe a negative way in which we have a lump or some sort of things that need to be shaken and taken out, or transmuted into something else. I'm seeing, for example, we are talking about the awake culture. People think that they know the truth. And I see this in the Latin community a lot, where people are going around thinking that they have the exclusivity on truth. And they're moving about with self-righteousness about how much they know. And more to the point, I hear it all the time. I know exactly what's going on. If this is your word, this is a sure indication that you don't know what's going on. Because if you're saying this, it's because you're judging others for not having your insights. Let's say it is in a higher perception of, or let's say something precipitated from the fog and showed you in a higher truth. Instead of accepting this as a blessing and seeing it as an opportunity for you to expand, if you go around trying to force that awakeness and that insight by trying to submit other people, your negative ego about control is now affecting the way the truth touches your ego. And that needs to change. This is the way the light of truth becomes a purifier, because it will show you how unbalanced it is when it touches your ego. Because you have to have compassion, kindness, and love for others, because it's an individual journey. The insight that you have, God is capable of giving it to someone else, but it is in God's timing, it's not your timing. Moreover, truth exists in an infinite spectrum of knowing. It is not a fixed point. And when you I know, and I've heard it so many times, I've read it so many times on mass media, I know exactly what's going on. Now, from where I stand, I think this is an erroneous statement, but I'm going to be kind and compassionate and say nothing to anyone. In time, they'll figure it out that this was not correct. But as a spiritual teacher, I'm trying to illuminate it that if this is you, you're not seeing the whole picture. Because if God is infinite, God's truth is also infinite. And therefore, your awakeness or the exact thing that you think you know right now will change. Because what you're seeing in the fog right now will morph and change into some higher truth in a matter of moments. Days, weeks, months, it will change, it will morph into something else. Because we're still transiting. And if that is the way you're perceiving it, the light of truth is not balancing you. The same is true for authenticity. If, for example, because a lot of people, that word is used way too many times, and the essence of it, I don't think people are valuing what it actually means. Your authentic core is not you exposing like a flasher some emotional trauma or some deep mental struggle that you're having. That's you being more or less seeking attention. Often this is what I see often on mass media now. It's people who are seeking attention, who are being in the spectrum of being narcissists. Your authentic core is a vulnerable, breakable, and extinguishable part of you that is so precious and so sensitive that the normal instinct that you have is to hide it from the world. And may sometimes even hide it from yourself. Because any examination, even by you, is sacrilege to how incredibly exposed you feel when you go into that space. It is that part of you that you don't want to reveal to anyone, and that you want to bury and hide because it's the treasure that you're seeking. It is your true essence. It is your unique expression of the divine. And when we grow up in this world, we learn very quickly in 3D reality that unique expression is not allowed, because the world, the entire culture of the 3D reality is to domesticating us into compliance, or not just compliance, but into being a cookie cutter of everyone else. And whatever that thing is that's inside of you. And most of the time people think that their authentic core is them being some sort of profession, a fireman, or, an engineer, an architect, or doctor, or whatever. A lot of time what's in your core is a feeling. It may not be an activity. It may be just a feeling. And you have to find a way to bring that feeling forth and broadcast it to the world, even though everything in the 3D matrix is telling you the opposite. You have to hide it. You have to, because it's a unique vibratory signature that you were born with. And if you don't express it, you will not allow your unique way, or the lens through which God is trying to manifest in you. You won't allow that to shine. So you have to find a way to muster the courage. And remember, this entire universe is evolving through a theme of courage. You have to find a way to, and I'll be honest with you, it's not your hedonistic desires. It's not your, it's something much more, much deeper, much more vulnerable. It's not about you making money and being a billionaire. It's none of that. And when you can find this and you can express it, then suddenly you begin to demonstrate to the world, because you have to find, it takes a tremendous amount of courage. And I warn people when they are doing this process, you don't need to publicize it on mass media and expose yourself this way. What you need to find is one person who you think loves you and that you trust. And as an exercise, you may want to share that part of you to one person. And once you do this to one person, you might find the courage to allow you to express it to 2 people or more. And when you do this, by the way, when you show that vulnerable part of you, because it's going to feel literally like you're walking on coal. And if you're not vulnerable and you're not walking on coal, you haven't touched your core. You're not authentic yet. You're not there yet. And when you're there and you're expressing it and you allow it to show up, and you're saying these things and you can't believe you're saying it to anyone else, and you may feel like you're going to be rejected immediately. People will think that you're weird, you're bizarre, you're Quasimodo. Because for me, when I was growing up, when I read Alexandre Dumas' book Quasimodo, I thought Quasimodo was me. I identify completely with that character. And so, because again, there was a part of me that I was hiding from the world. I didn't want people to see it. I've always felt like a weirdo. Like there's something wrong with me. Like I'm broken. This is what Alice Miller in her book, the Drama of the Gifted Child, talks about the problem of the gifted child. You never initially, because you interpret, because every time you let that part of you out, the way people react around you is so terrifying. And how do they react? They become, for me, they become extremely quiet and they look shell-shocked. And the way I interpreted as a child was that I'm being weird and bizarre, and therefore I need to shut it down. Because everyone wants to be accepted. No one wants to be ostracized. I have to shut it down. And when I finally found a place where I could allow, I felt comfortable enough. And for me, it happened in 2015. It took that long. 2015, when I was in this meeting in Los Angeles, and there were 120 people, healers that I really liked, and I began to speak from my core and express certain things from my authentic self. And again, the whole room, you could hear a pin drop. Everybody became silent. And I've seen this, by the way, multiple times. I remember watching a performance of somebody singing. Okay? And it literally was on American Idol. And what was he singing? I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. That song, very popular song. But the way he sang, it was so authentic, and he demonstrated, it came from that emotional space inside of him where he felt that he was a creep. When the performance ended, the camera zoomed back from the back of the performer to the stage, to the public and the judges. For about 5 seconds or 6 seconds, no one did anything. Everybody was in awe. Everybody was in total stillness and silence. This is him shining his authentic core. Because everyone was in shock. That's what when you see someone demonstrated something, and initially people say, and after that, of course, thunderous applause. Everybody stood up and was screaming and yelling. Because what happened when you expose it this way, people, and this is what they're processing. You're so honest and so true about who you are and what you are. And you open yourself up so completely to let your true, and remember, at that moment, this artist was demonstrating to the world, not only the people who were in that theater, but it's being televised. Millions upon millions, biggest stage in the world. Seeing him, he's exposing who he is and how he feels in his core. And the moment he did this, he reminded, this is why people were shell shocked, he reminded everyone that to a degree and or another, you too inside of you are afraid, feels like a weirdo or afraid of expressing your authentic self as well. That's why I had never understood this until I was in that meeting in Los Angeles in 2015. I then shone my light, and as I did this again, the room became quiet, and I remember tears started rolling down my face because for 5 or 6 seconds, no one said anything. You could hear pin drop. Everybody was looking at me, staring at me, and I went back in my head all the time, like it opened up like an accordion. Where in my past as a child, I remember having that same kind of effect and feeling again, I'm Quasimodo, I'm doing it again. I shouldn't have done this. There was a mistake. I felt like the earth should open up and I should be swallowed inside of it. I made a mistake. And then one person that I appreciate very deeply got up and came up to me and gave me a hug and said to me, I profoundly and deeply appreciated what you did. And then everybody started running toward me and giving me hugs. And it was that moment that I had the epiphany of realizing that people, when you do this initially, you're giving people, you're reminding them that they too inside of them have an authentic part that they are not expressing. And you're reminding them that they too must go on this journey and find the courage to express it. This is what real authenticity looks like. If you're a performer, you notice that there are moments when you're so vulnerable emotionally, and whatever, or an artist for that matter, a visual artist, where you're presenting something, and the moment you disclose it and you present it, people insert all that initially there's no response. I remember even being some movies where the movie ends and no one can leave the theater. Everybody's riveted. They're sitting down there going like, they're so shell-shocked. Or the performance ends and no one says anything. Everybody's still silent. Not because it was, it's exact opposite. The reach was so profound and so deep, and you're reminding these people, this is what you need to do. You need to figure out a way to bring your unique expression of the divine that's hidden in you. You need to find a way to bring it out too. Any questions, any comments? We can teach others by being by being authentic. And I'm not talking about the real authenticity, not the kind of mass media oriented, fabricated thing that a lot of people are expressing. They're saying all the right words and all the, you could tell when somebody on mass media is saying things that have been done by, it's a press release. It's been literally pre-written, and they're just going through the motion of saying it as an actor. But when the real genuine things happen, the reaction of people typically is simply stunned. People are stunned. And that energy is a purging and liberating energy, because it's reminding you, you need to go into that space inside of you, and you need to release your unique expression of the divine that you're still hiding deep in your core. Now, as far as transparency is concerned, that energy, a lot of people want disclosure. They want everything to be open, and truth, transparency are doing that. But transparency is not like it's not reality television. It's not you have a camera follow you everywhere and having all your business in the street. It's not, people, again, if this is what you think it is, and this is the way you're reacting when that frequency hits you, where you're beginning to verbally, you're oversharing, and you're telling everybody about your business over and over again, then there is a negative ego blockage when transparency is now touching you. You have to figure out a way to evolve beyond that point, and to realize that there's sense of a commission and sense of a mission. There are certain things, and moreover, not everybody is in the same vibration and frequency. Although I want to share as much spiritual knowledge with as many people as possible, the kind of level of frequency and vibration that I am doing in this right now with you, if I was in a different group, I would not express it, because you've been with me for years. And it's truly deep and truly elevated. So as I'm being transparent, I have to ask Spirit quite often, depending on the group that I'm speaking with, depending on where I am, to give me the right filter, to know how to speak, change my wording and how to speak, so that I can reach the people and I can transmit at least the essence of the teaching to them. Master Jesus did this so beautifully when he was teaching young children. He was able to tell them little stories and parable, whether it is the prodigal son or any others. He was a master of doing this. Profound spiritual teaching taught to young children. So how I demonstrate my mastery to others, how I share, how I broadcast, depends on the group and the collective that I'm trying to broadcast to. I can make it as high as I'm making it now for you that have been with me for over 10 years. Every one of you have been with me for over 10 years. Or I can step it down as a simple story. That's me being transparent, depending on the need of the environment. And there are things, if someone that is not as deep and as elevated and I've studied for so long with me, there are things that if I say it to them, I'm going to lose them. It is true. It is things that but there's a way for me to give the essence of the information at a step down level. When I'm in a new crowd, a new environment, and I have to do something, I have to pray ahead of time and say, no, to the whole collective, and try to figure out where is that common denominator. If you see me, whether I'm in a book signing or I'm doing whatever, I have to, initially when I start talking, for the first few minutes, I am trying to feel the collective energy to know exactly at what level I have to speak. This is me trying to be as transparent as possible. I have to find a way to take very abstract and abstruse at times spiritual knowledge, and I have to find a way to transmit it. in a manner that will allow somebody, whatever the level of consciousness they are at, they will get it. If I think that I can only speak in one way to any crowd, I'm not being transparent. I'm being obstruse to some people. If I am to fulfill that authentic core vibration, which for me is about releasing this knowledge to the world, if I'm to fulfill this, I have to find a way to transmit it in a manner that allows whatever group that I'm talking to a way for them, for the seed that I've planted in them to grow. I'm not going to grow for them. I'm going to give them seeds, ideas, and concepts, but it has to be, it cannot be so big and so crazy that they cannot bite it. Any questions, any comments? Come on now, I could feel all the wheels in your consciousness turning because of this conversation. I know you know that there's a lot going on right now. Share your thoughts. All right, if there are no questions, then let's take a 5-minute break and then for water break, and then we'll do the closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Realize that you can perceive 360 degrees all around you. As you allow your heart and your mind to sync with each other. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your awareness begin to feel, perceive, and sense the ways in which the light of truth authenticity and transparency or cleansing purging and purifying your consciousness for safe passage. Through the bardo. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your entire consciousness notice the locations, issues, and unresolved negative ego filters. That these lights may be exposing in you. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. What lessons, insights, that the purifying energies are trying to teach me. Notice what you noticed. And whatever awareness arises, no matter how it shows up for you, take a very deep breath and simply sink into it. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. Now take a very deep breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging any negative ego filter as it moves through your entire body. Exit outside of your head and get released completely into source. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, counter rotating, passing through you and dislodging all negative ego filters, allowing all of it to be exited outside of your body and released completely into source. Surrender all of it as if you were throwing a rock into a lake. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath rise and pass through the bottom of your feet, moving through you and dislodging all negative ego filters or resistance. And let this vulnerable part of you exit outside of your head and be released completely into source. As you completely let go and surrender. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, counter rotating, passing through your entire body, dislodging from you all negative ego filters that have shown up for you, and releasing all of it outside of your head and into source. Unburden yourself. Let go. O thou most holy, may I go to thy purging and be clean. In the vast continents I stand in spiritual rectitude and verticality. Ready to be cleansed and purified by your light, your virtues, and your power. Remove in me all the resistance, the fears, the negative ego filters, the false belief, and the false identities. The attachments, the resistance. That are keeping me bound to the existing paradigm of survival. Liberate me from emotional, reactive, mental, and spiritual slavery to my own negative ego filters. Let me enjoy freedom. That I may broadcast my unique perception of the divine. Let my authentic core shine. Let me fulfill my truth, my purpose, and my mission. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome, Janice. I hope this was useful.
Yes, it was.
Any last minute comments or questions that you may have?
Thank you, Pierre. That was beautiful. And the class was top notch. Thank you.
Thank you, Marjorie. Anyone else? I want to thank you all for listening to me tonight. All of this came from very deep within my heart. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your patronage and for your support. If you're listening to us on online on YouTube, please subscribe, like the video, share it. I would appreciate that very deeply. I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you, everyone. Deep love to all of you.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.